Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Hello, everyone. You are tuned to the MC Lars podcast. This is episode 99. It is Monday, July 20th, 2020. And this week we have a dear friend of mine, Shawn Levin. Before we get into that, I wanted to announce that the Bible LP is out. 100% of the profits from the Bible LP are going to the Black Organizing Project, which is a Black member-led community organization that works for racial, social, and economic justice through grassroots organizing and community building in Oakland, California. So any dollar you put or any streaming you put into this will go towards them. I thought that would be a tight idea. Let's first thank the MC Lars Patreon Larsons. Those are the homies who support this project on Patreon. If you want to hear my Marvel songs, I have like over 100 jams at patreon.com/MCLars. I drop 2 new songs a month, which you haven't heard. I'm about to drop my Thor Ragnarok song and then my Ant-Man and the Wasp song. But I want to shout out the old Patreon Larsons, Z Tynzo, Bo Lewis. What's up, Bo? I went to college with you. Love you, bro. And Richard Sheldon. Shout out to the new ones, Annie, William, and Jordan. So if you sign up, you get a shout out, you get merch. If you sign up at a certain level, you get access to my entire catalog. So yeah, just stuff maybe you haven't heard. Let's get into it. This is this week's letter to Atlas. And every week I play a message. Our son is now 2.5 months old. He's doing great. He's finally sleeping, which makes all the difference, which helps me get a lot more done. And then when he's awake, I'm very happy to see him. If you want to leave a message to our son, the secret number is 510-463-4237. That's 510-463-4237. And I might play it on the podcast. This week's letter to Atlas comes from the average homeboy, Denny Blazin' Hazen. And when we were trying to have a kid, I was telling him about our journey. So he said some nice stuff. So here we go. Is he sleeping? Is he pooping? Just checking in. How's a little boy doing? These are some messages that you left. Wishing our little baby boy the best. Now it's time for Letters to Atlas.
Please leave a message after the tone.
Hey, Atlas. My name is Denny Blazin' Hazen, and your dad is a friend of mine. For a long time, I prayed that your dad would be blessed with a child. Now, that prayer has been answered. God gave your dad a huge blessing, and that is you. I wish you the best and keep making your dad proud. Oh, and you just got blazed.
Y'all remember the average homeboy? He had that viral video in like 2006, and then he was on Tosh Point. Oh, he gave me a shout out because he's a good guy. Thank you, Denny. I love you, bro. Hopefully I'll see you when we're back in Cleveland later this year, if that indeed happens, the Con on the Cob. What's up with tour plans? Well, I might be going out on tour in the spring with the Nerdcore guys, and I might be doing a UK tour next summer. So stay tuned because that's all very, very exciting, and we don't know the details. Hopefully this COVID stuff will be over soon, but let's get into it. This week we have Shawn Levin. Now, Shawn is a dude I've known since I was in 4th grade. We actually recorded this on April 7th, so like at the beginning of the pandemic. We were in a band together called Horris. And later, Horris became the name of my label, Horris Records. And at first I was MC Lars Horris. So we talked about the origin of the band. There were like 7 or 8 people in this band because it was the era of ska. I didn't want to tell people no. We had 3 guitarists, which was maybe too much. 2 percussionists. I mean, it was a fun little project, but it was a learning experience. But everyone got together every weekend and we rehearsed and we played 4 shows only. And we talk about this. We're going to hear a song from one of our last shows. Actually, from our last show, we played New Year's Eve festival. Shawn's mom is awesome. And she got us into stuff like Grateful Dead. One of her boyfriends got us into Ice Cube. We tell a funny story about that. We talk about the time we went to see ICP in March of 2000 in Palo Alto. And we talk about the early years of file sharing. We talk about our trips to New York for our radio conference, where I saw MC Paul Barman. I met Wesley Willis. I met Jonas Hall from King Missile. We heard Chuck D talk. It was like such a huge formative weekend. And Shawn was with me through like all the beginnings. So I think he's a very important part of my story. And he's a good friend. And he was the first person to really get me into Paul Barman. He bought me that first CD. It's very stimulating. And that made me realize that like rap could be nerdy and weird and esoteric as long as it was smart and had a lot of heart. So I love you, Shawn. It was really special to be able to talk to him. He's worked at Google. He does a lot of like product design stuff. It's kind of confusing because his career is very unique. He explains what he does. One of my favorite parts of the show is we talk about our wilderness trip we did sophomore year, which is like a 2-week trip where they dumped the sophomores out in the middle of the Big Sur wilderness. We hiked 80 miles. We had a teacher with us who kind of led the way, and 2 seniors. But we were in the same group. So that was a life-changing trip. So without much further ado, this is my interview with my longtime friend, Shawn Levin, one of my first ever musical collaborators, and a great dude. He lives up in Seattle. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Shawn Levin, an old friend from all the way back since 5th grade. I've known you, and we are doing this remote podcast because I saw you you came to our show, and I was like, I want to talk to you about the history of our friendship and our musical collaborations. And I'm wondering, Shawn, do you do a lot of podcast interviews, or is this one of your first?
This is my first podcast interview. I'm proud to say.
How is everything in Seattle with the COVID-19 right now?
Everyone's taking it seriously and staying inside, and we wave to our neighbors from across the street, but that's about it. I've got some friends who are working the ER, and so I've been keeping in touch with them, and for the most part, they're saying it's busy, but they're not overwhelmed yet.
Why was Seattle such an early city that got hit hard? Is it because of the cruise ships, or why do you think?
Yeah, there was a retirement home that was kind of the main reason for the initial jump in cases, and that was just northeast of the city, really close to where I used to work, and so the cases went up right at the beginning there because people started testing positive, but then after that, like, people locked down right away, and like my office said, no, everyone go home.
So you've been working remotely for what, 3 weeks?
We took a vacation right when like the news started to hit, and we were in Hawaii, and then came back, and everyone was like, okay,
oh right,
things are gonna happen, and then I had to go on a business trip, and Seattle wasn't locked down yet, and so I flew back to Seattle from my trip, dropped some stuff off at my office, and have not left the house since.
Where were you born?
Oh man, I was born in Humboldt County on a goat farm in an Airstream trailer in a field of thistles. So like,
wait, where in Humboldt County?
Fortuna, California.
Okay, I've been there. Yeah, just south of Eureka.
Yeah. I definitely haven't been back since. But I mean, I don't know. You've met my folks. That's pretty much on brand for them.
Did she give birth in the trailer?
They had a garage built onto it, so it was kind of like a semi-house, semi-trailer type of deal. My mom is like, oh, all the animals came out and were like, it is dawn, and there was animals surrounding the trailer. I don't know what actually happened, but that's what it sounds like.
How long were they living up there?
They went their separate ways, and we ended up in Santa Rosa for a while, and then in Davis while my mom went to college. But yeah, we were in Seaside, Salinas, PG, Monterey, all over. Carmel Valley for a little while.
Right. I remember going to your house in Seaside. When I first met you, I think that's where you were living.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
She was encouraging and supportive of all our creativity, like making prank calls and all the fun, silly stuff we would do at your house because you had like a cool mom.
Yeah, those silly boys on the phone with I don't know who they're talking to.
Like, what was the draw of the peninsula other than it being beautiful and stuff?
I know the intention was then to get her graduate degree or her marriage, family, child therapist license, and that required a degree.
Yeah.
And she went to Chapman in Monterey. They had a campus. Our first place was actually like 2 blocks away from the aquarium. Yeah, because I went to the Monterey Public Elementary School before going to Stevenson in 3rd grade.
So I joined y'all in 6th grade there at the school. So for some context, Stevenson is like a prep school in Pebble Beach, and they have a campus in Carmel that's like very small, very strict, very uniforms, great arts and dance and theater and but definitely a world that is just so not the real world.
Just this little microcosm in the forest. It's like you're driving down Highway 1 and all of a sudden like you turn off and in the trees is like,
yeah,
it's almost like it was like a little hobbit village back then. I don't think it is now, but I don't know. I haven't been back really.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and these little classrooms that you would, have to, I mean, most of the campus was outdoors. So it was like running from awning to awning during the rainy season, right? Do you remember having to do that?
But we had some great teachers like Chris West and Miss Patsy. Like I remember you really excelled in theater and like dance, especially.
Yeah, the arts there were really like pretty formative for me and for you and for a lot of people that we spend a lot of time with. Being able to do dance that early and like understand like there's athleticism in something like ballet changed my entire outlook on life, I think.
And they do these elaborate productions at the end of the year or spring, right?
I don't remember why this was the case, but I remember for Mary Poppins, they weren't able to get their hands on the script. And so I remember after class seeing them watch the movie and hand write the script.
One of us could have probably found a free transcription online if they asked like the nerds. Who were you in Mary Poppins?
Uncle Albert? Yeah, because we had that and then the Mikado, right?
That's what's up.
But I had the famed fall on stage, which haunted me for like my entire high school career. Do you remember that?
You fell off a thing or what happened?
There was a bunch of people in the audience. And I remember even showing my dad, he wasn't at the show, but I showed him the video and he like rewound it and played it over again. Nick and Ian were the two other leads.
You and me and Ian hung out a lot and he was definitely hyperactive, funny, cool, weird kid who you knew way before me because I had visited in 5th grade, but I didn't, or 4th grade. And then I came in 6th grade. So what year did Ian join?
Either 4th or 5th. And yeah, we hit it off really well. And his parents were super nice to me. And so, we spent a ton of time together. Okay.
So let's talk about our first band.
For sure.
So this band that you and I started and had a rotating cast of people was kind of really formative for me and fun. And you were always like really good sport about it. And let's talk about your memories of it first. And we only played 4 shows. I want to preface that. We only had 4 total shows.
How many guitarists did we have at one time? I think we had
3 and a bassist.
But I got to sit and hold a guitar while I sang and not actually play anything. So I think that makes it 4th, right?
Oh, we did like as a joke?
I had a guitar with me. Maybe not at the first night show, but at least one of our shows I did. And then I remember feeling really uncomfortable about singing without having something in my hands, which like I still to this day, I play the ukulele and I like to sing and play, but if I'm ever not holding something, I'm like super uncomfortable. And so I remember like practicing in the garage and just holding my guitar and being like, just Andrew, tell me one note that I can play sometime.
Right. That was the first electric guitar I'd ever played, even though it wasn't plugged in. Like I remember going to your house and just playing it and feeling the weight of it. And like, it was just so cool to have a friend with an electric guitar, you know?
Totally. I remember a few practices in the Seaside house. That's when Ian was in the band. And I have pictures of like me and you and Ian and Ben on the bongos, right?
What did Ian play?
Ian was playing bass before Chris did.
So this would have been like 6th grade.
We had Tyler on guitar.
Dan Myers, Tyler's friend, who became our friend.
And like they would just jam together and it was like, oh, that's cool. What are we playing?
Yeah, Dad didn't read sheet music and he's very talented. I was very meticulous writing the charts. Like I kind of made it a thing to like keep all 8 people or whatever on task. And schedule practice. And everyone was really disciplined, especially once we got to high school and got like our first paying show.
Totally. Wait, did we get paid for that show?
Well, it was like $60 for all of us. I think I gave everyone like $5.
Yes.
Right.
Nice.
So that was still I've had shows where I've been paid $60 now. So, like on bad door deals. Then Dan Dubois, 7th grade, he came and played. He actually played a full drum kit.
So he was in the band. I remember he played drums, but I wasn't sure. Okay, so he was in the band, and then we had
Leah Hewlett,
yeah, and then one other one, right? Leah's friend,
PJ McCombs.
Oh, right, yeah, PJ,
who later I did shows with and recorded with, and yeah, so it was the 7 of us, and that was like a thing. Like we didn't want to tell people no, they couldn't be in the band, which was fine. 7 people is fine. It was like years of ska, so that was like not abnormal, even though we weren't a ska band. We had some kind of ska influenced stuff, but
Party on the Moon, man, Party on the Moon. I remember like playing that for, I don't know, friends of my mom's, and them just like, I don't know if they were pretending to love it or actually loving it, but it was a fun song.
Well, at the end of this, I always play a song, and I think it'd be cool to play like one of the versions of that. I never had a talent of singing on pitch. I could write lyrics and play chords, but I could have rhythm, but we had a really cool working relationship where like I'd write a song, kind of sing the melody like poorly, and you'd hear it and make it awesome and change it and like make it better. And like, that was always fun. Like we probably did like 6 or 7 songs together like that were all, I think they hold up. Like, let's talk about that.
Well, I remember like riding the bus with you sometimes and having like, you would be writing songs and yeah, we just kind of like hum them out and figure it out. Like, do you remember that song?
Jerk, you're a jerk.
Yeah, jerk, you're a jerk. Oh man, that was, to this day, I still hum that song sometimes.
Didn't I remember I sent you that version of that British dude, our friend Richard? He covered it.
Oh yeah, totally so good.
He did a good job. Shad Richard.
And then I remember like us trying to write parodies of some songs, and like they always ended up being like pretty vulgar or like really inappropriate, and like people on the bus going, "What are those kids talking about? We're writing a song, guys. It's fine. We're being artistic."
Like remember Mbop? We did a song about Hail Bop.
Yeah, Hail Bop, and Rolls, of course, right? Rolls is still like, that was the
classic.
Yeah.
So Rolls. So that was our first ever show, right? So it's a parody of the song "Good" by Better Than Ezra, and in true Weird Al inspired fashion, we changed the words and made it about a guy who loves eating and staying at home.
Do recordings of that exist anywhere?
Oh yeah, and I have a video of it.
You have a video? Oh,
but
wow.
It's funny, dude. Shawn, it was funny watching all the rehearsals because like we were so hyper and throwing drumsticks, and like I'd always hit Chris's hand while he was playing the bass parts like a jerk. Sorry, Chris, if you're listening.
Yeah.
And then on the video of us playing, we were so subdued and serious and like trying to be like early 90s grunge.
We're so nervous. Like
our first live thing. But the thing about the talent show is kids would lip sync to what was big in the mid-90s, Macarena or something. But here we came with our real instruments doing this expertly crafted parody where we had to be on time, and you sang on pitch, and it was just like, that was fun, man. That was still one of my favorite performance memories.
It was super fun. I still remember it. I think I even remember some of the other acts didn't somebody do like an Op Ivy cover?
Yeah, Ian's brother and
and David
Lucchese.
Yeah, I remember hearing that in the gym.
What is this song? Time Bomb?
Yeah.
And it was like we had to wear uniforms, but for the talent show, I wore like my grunge cutoff jeans. I remember you wore like a tie-dye shirt, maybe in purple glasses.
Right. Yeah, I don't think we quite had the stage clothing down, because I remember at our first night set, we were like, let's go to Goodwill and buy like suits or something.
Yes, old used suits.
But like, none of them really worked out quite right.
No, I mean but not everyone dressed up in suits too. That's the thing. Like some people, like PJ wore a striped sweater. Right. I mean,
I think I still have my original Insectivorous CD somewhere.
Like a sticker, like put his stamp on the CD. We would do these like parodies and songs, and we never really released or sold the music. It just was for us, really, which was why it was fun.
I never really remember thinking like, oh man, like I can't wait to like put this on a CD and do something with it. I just like, it was just fun to play music and to get together and play, and it's one of the things, like, I still to this day, I don't do it very often, but when I do, it's like, it's such a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful like release to just like play music and enjoy playing. You get to do it all the time. I don't really get to do it much anymore, but it really started then, and I think it's still, I remember it to this day. Like that's why I like it.
It's something that like always gave us a reason to all get together, and it was like our crew, right? And it was like something pure about that because it was just for the love of it. And you were always a supportive friend because you'd let me kind of lead, but then when it came time to do shows, you were the front man. But like it was okay because you had the talent, and like, but you would kind of validate my creative ideas. You'd be honest with me. You'd let me know, like, you'd give me feedback if the words were wrong on the paper and like stuff like that. And and your mom is a musician too. I remember you played me something where she sang on a track like harmonies or something, right? She's musical talent.
She used to sing a bit. She was played with a group called Geist, which is friends of ours. They were actually at our first night show. Diana and Teed, Diana Stork and Teed Rockwell. And she plays the harp, and he plays, back then he played an instrument called the Chapman stick. It's kind of morphed. He plays an instrument called the war guitar. It's essentially a very, the neck of a guitar, except with, 24 strings or something like that. And you tap with both hands, along the neck of the guitar to play, the notes. It's a beautiful instrument. And yeah, way back when they had, a track. I don't remember what it was called, but my mom sang on it, and it was very nice. And I think she played a couple shows with them. And I growing up, like there was always music around in the house.
Yeah, I remember she had two big like old school speakers in the living room.
Yeah,
that were like huge.
Yeah, in true like Deadhead fashion, it was like the speakers were very important, but the sound quality on the tapes were terrible. So
right, I remember she was in the Grateful Dead, and I remember I learned about them through you and the whole like Dick's Picks bootlegs, right? Yeah. And nowadays you don't want to get a dick pic, but Dick's Picks then.
No, you don't, definitely not. Yeah, as a kid, I remember my dad was really into it more than she was back then, but. Yeah, I remember hearing that as a kid and going like, oh yeah, Dick's Picks. That's some guy named Dick, and he picks the music. And
right.
And then like I stopped paying attention and then came back to it, and I was like, whoa, that's poor choice in words.
Right. They would always let people like bootleg their shows, and that was a cool thing about like early file sharing in a way, like share our music, right? We don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually a really interesting kind of parallel to the music sharing that we grew up with, right? Like they allowed people to plug directly into their soundboards and get pretty great recording quality. I made that joke about the tape quality, but that was usually because tapes were copied 10 times over. Yeah. But like the original recordings were really good. And there was this huge network of people trading tapes that my dad was super into, and now it's all online, and it kind of mimics what we used to do way back when, but like it was it was done by mail and by people. I don't even know how people would get tapes from each other. I think it was like they met at shows and like you trade and illicit tapes.
Yeah, and it was for some bands it wasn't legal, and that's how like the Jerky Boys kind of became this underground thing, and how I would trade tapes with online, and like that's how I got people would send me tapes, and I remember that's how I got into ICP early, and like was and really? We all kind of coalesced around that as they got bigger and bigger. But yeah, like Ringmaster, the first ICP show I ever went to was with you, John Bell, and Cindy, right? Yeah. And your mom.
And Cindy, yeah. And my mom way in the back. Man,
what a memory.
Did I send you? Cindy gave me some pictures of that when I saw her. I saw her in Hong Kong, and we were talking about that show, and I think she sent me some photos of that.
In our Juggalo makeup.
Crazy show. So much fun, though. Like, yeah. And by the way, I haven't caught up on all the Hatchet Chats, but the ones I've listened to are awesome.
Thank you, Shawn. I want to do an episode when I do the Clowns from Outer Space. I'm going to talk about that show, and probably it'd be cool to show those pictures like in the YouTube video.
For sure. Yeah. That'll be tight. Absolutely. Twisted opened for them. Is that right?
Yeah, Twisted,
so we got to see them.
Early Twisted.
Yeah, totally.
So tight. At the Icon in Palo Alto, which isn't there anymore. And I remember talking to these people who had came from like Bakersfield or something, and they're like, "So are you guys from Palo Alto?" And we're like, "Nope." And they're like, "Oh, so you guys aren't Richies? That's good." And we were like, like, do you remember that? These scary old adults were like judging us if we were from this rich town, which we weren't. We were just from a different rich town.
Yeah, totally. But we weren't going to tell them that.
I was like, no, we aren't from here. Oh, good.
There were so many good musical venues in the Bay Area, these tiny venues that aren't, they're not there anymore, but like...
Slim's just closed. Do you know that?
I heard that, yeah. And
yeah.
I remember there was some like in Santa Cruz. I don't remember where it was, but...
Palookaville?
That place was killer. And that's not there anymore, right?
No, it's like a restaurant now.
Yeah.
It's hard. Well, here's the thing. Like with the music business, bigger bands will play just San Francisco, then maybe Santa Barbara, but usually LA. It's rare to play San Francisco and Santa Cruz. Like, why would you do that? You
usually hit Santa Cruz when you go through, right? Or do you not?
The last time I did both was probably 2011, honestly. I usually do San Francisco and LA. Yeah, man. I mean that, but like the interesting culture of the Central Coast was like, you're right, the legacy of like the Grateful Dead and like the 60s and the hippie music and the jazz and being close to the Bay Area.
Oh yeah.
I remember my first introduction to like real rap was when your mom's ex-boyfriend Frog gave you CDs that I bought from you. Those Ice Cube.
The Ice Cube CDs.
America's Most Wanted and Death Certificate.
I got so much trouble.
Did he?
Because I don't know. Did I sold them to you, or
I gave you $20. I bought them both for $10 because
right.
I'd sold Ian my my Game Gear, and for like $100, and every week he'd bring me $20, his allowance for like 5 weeks. So I was like, Shawn, let me buy those from you. Did you remember
and it's
that?
so funny because he gave me a couple CDs, and it was those two Ice Cube CDs and the Chronic. Which, for whatever reason, I decided, like, I want to keep the Chronic, but you can have the Ice Cube, because like I didn't really give him a full listen. I heard the Chronic one, like all the way through, and I was like, oh, this is my new favorite album. Period. This is it. And I kind of regretted that because I didn't really get exposed to that. I listened to him a few times, but
there's that diss about him. There's that Cube diss, right, on the Chronic.
Yeah. That's yeah, maybe I heard that and I was like, oh well, screw this guy, I don't want to listen to him. I'm sticking with Dre.
Well, the Chronic's a better record than those two, but the Ice Cube records are iconic. And I remember your mom Frog called my house and be like, just want to let you know, my girlfriend's son sold these CDs to,
you're right,
blah blah blah. And so it was like this question of, was he mad because he wanted them back? Because I remember you never got them back. I still have them.
I don't know. I imagine that it was like, yeah, he gave them to me and then I turned around and sold them. And that's a bit of a betrayal of trust, right?
He's trying to get you into new music.
I mean, I get why he was upset. It makes sense. But it's good you still have them. And yeah, like the Chronic is definitely a better album, but they're still like those are quintessential Cube, right? Like,
right, definitely, and they're definitely foul. I think he was trying to warn my parents that like it was not appropriate, and because that it was. And
somehow he was like, "It's okay if Shawn has them, but like nobody else."
No, that was the thing. Yeah, like I just wanted to warn you about the content on them because I had a conversation with Shawn about how they are inappropriate, and so I don't know. But anyway, you were always on the cutting edge of stuff like that. And I remember you'd be on Hotline. Was that the program?
Yeah,
and you had a server, and you'd get all the wares and rare MP3s and Eminem freestyles. Yep, you remember that? Yeah,
dude. The Hotline, I don't know what happened to that little community. After I stopped using it, I never really looked back. But it was when Napster was becoming popular, and it was this like a little more underground thing. But it was hugely popular. But I have no idea what ended up happening with it.
It was Mac native. I feel like it was a Mac server.
And at the time, nobody had Macs. So,
and you were the only people I knew who had a Mac that was, remember they were licensing their software to like other manufacturers. You had like a really awesome Mac, but it was like licensed. What would you remember?
I had I had the Motorola. So they licensed it to two companies, Motorola and I don't remember the other one. But we got one of the Motorola ones, and they were pretty solid. They were it was just like you could get more bang for your buck, basically. But our first Mac we had a Quadra 605, and then the next one was the Motorola one, and that's the one that it was mine, like that lived in my room.
It was so fast. It was like so good.
yeah. And the thing with Hotline was if you wanted to connect to multiple individual servers, you had to open up a new client. So I would open up 12 Hotline clients, and so you had to run them all simultaneously.
And it was dial-up, right? Or did you have like ISDN or Ethernet? It was dial-up, right?
We had dial-up for a while. Maybe when we moved to PG, we got something better, but it was dial-up for most of the time. It definitely in Seaside.
That's what's up. That's cool, Shawn. Okay, so let's talk about. So here are the 4 shows that we played. The 2 talent shows. We played that like singles party at our friend's mom's trailer park in Pacific Grove. Do you remember this? The Christmas party.
Wait.
For parents. It was like a warm up for the New Year's. It was like someone had like a singles get together. It was
it was a singles get together? I think the singles get together part of it was totally went over my head. I had no idea that's what was going on.
And that was Monarch Pines trailer park in Pacific Grove, like their social room. Someone hooked that up. Someone had a party there and needed a band, so we played for free. And
I'm just imagining.
Do you remember this?
The people there going like, "What are we listening to?"
No, I mean we were. Everyone was like jazz trained, so we were able to do the instrumental stuff. But like I remember, I was like. I had this song I wanted to do solo minute, so I'd get out my guitar and sing this song about how you can't go back to Disneyland, like a sad song about childhood.
Oh yeah, and didn't we all left the stage, right? That was your solo bit.
And then I was like, all right, everyone, shh. All right, you guys could please stop talking. Or okay, keep talking if you want. I said that, and it got real awkward. And I sang the song like.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was like not.
Do you have a recording of it?
I don't. I have demos of that song, but out of key. And whatever. And I remember this smart ass dude, older man goes, I don't care what he says. I'm still going back. He yelled that out in the background. I was like, all right. But man, not reading the room. Like, anytime, like this is our time to shine. Okay. It's my sad song about childhood at this Christmas party, leaving childhood. And then New Year's Eve, which was, I feel like such an epic, wonderful night. Like that was, let's talk about first night real quick.
Well, and you still play first night, right?
Yeah, I played it.
Or did you stop?
No, I played it last New Year's Eve. I took a few years off, and there's a few years I haven't done. But most years since '98, probably like 80% of them, that's been my New Year's Eve thing with MC Lars.
Awesome.
All because of us, Shawn.
It's great. That show I remember it was we were in a wasn't it like a gym, right?
It's called the Scout House. It was where the Boy Scouts met.
Right. And there was maybe 30 people. What do you think?
Yeah, but it was all our parents, maybe like 50. It was our parents and their friends. And that's what I realized. Having 8 people in your band means that people are going to come because everyone wants to support their teenage kids on New Year's Eve.
Totally. I also remember we had a set list, and I was I still am really, really bad at remembering words, right?
Okay.
Like I can sing along to songs. I memorized the melody, no problem. But lyrics, I'm just terrible.
And there were so many.
Remembering what the words are. And so I remember I had to have music in front of me, which is like, I think I had a music stand, which for just the singer to have a music stand was, I felt a little embarrassed by it. But I don't, in retrospect, I don't think it mattered. But yeah, that show was.
I think we all had music, the charts and the chords.
Yeah, probably. And we played for like 30, 45 minutes, right? How long was the set?
No, I think we played 3 45-minute sets, man.
What?
Because they wanted us to do 3 half-hour sets. Yeah, definitely. Because we had 2 sets. We had a break and then yeah. And this is something else I learned. They were willing to provide the sound and they asked, "Do you need production?" And Fred Zaida's dad had all the speakers because he worked at the Naval Postgraduate School. Yeah. So Fred set up the speakers, ran sound, and I didn't realize, just tell a venue you don't have a PA. I wanted to be really accommodating and set up the sound system for them.
So we could have just said, no, we don't have sound, and they would do it for us.
I think they would have, yeah. And so...
And they're looking at it like, wait, these high schoolers have their own sound guy? Okay, yeah. I guess.
Yeah, or whatever.
So did we play the same set 3 times? Or did we have an hour and a half of content?
It was pretty much the same, except changing a little bit or repeating a few songs. But yeah, it was pretty much the same set. So that's why I'll send you, I have MP3s of the, of that show. I'll send you if you want them because yeah. And
I remember we played a few covers, right? Didn't we? We did.
Oh yeah, we did.
Our Lady Peace, right? Superman's Dead.
Yeah, that was dope. You sounded good on that.
It's still one of my favorite. Yeah, I love that song. A little out of my range.
And Drama Rama, anything. That was a great cover. I love that song, man. Yeah. And then we didn't do any parodies because we were in our serious high school years. I remember Tyler Wood, shout out to him. He wasn't trying to do parodies. He was like, that's not the kind of project this is. And I was like, all right, don't want to piss off the second guitar player.
All right. We're not going to do parodies. That's it. Yeah. Do you remember Tyler had that beautiful guitar
that he sold? He said he sold that guitar and he doesn't play anymore.
He doesn't play? Oh, man.
That dude is a beast musically. And I guess he has a gallery now in New York, like an art gallery. Because you both went to college in Chicago, right? You and Tyler.
We did, yeah. And Nick as well. He was at Northwestern and Tyler was at Northwestern. I was at DePaul. And we hung out. I don't think the 3 of us ever hung out, but I hung out with him a couple times, not a ton. Chicago is... I think anytime you're in college, it's like leaving your campus area is a big deal.
Right.
So, yeah, we hung out a little bit, but not a ton. And I catch up with him, once every 5 years. Last time I saw him was at Ben's wedding, and that was awesome.
That's what's up.
But we haven't talked much since. But yeah, dude was always musical genius.
And he really liked Frank Zappa, jamming, Moody Blues, like really musical stuff where I feel you and I kind of like more punk stuff. You maybe like more, I know you kind of were into trance music for a while.
Oh man. So into trance and music.
Soul Coughing, which you would play on your show and your radio show. And I whenever I hear El Oso, I think about you had your show was Friday night or Saturday night?
So I did, let's see. Oh, before I was morning shows, I did the evening show with Ian. He and I did, it was Friday or Saturday night, I think. It was, honestly, that station is got me exposed to so many different musicians that I never would have heard otherwise. It was. That's
what's up.
And you were a big part of that. And remember when we went to CMJ?
Yeah. That was awesome.
Do you remember Chuck D was the keynote?
Yeah, good memory, man. Yeah, that would have been senior year, right?
I think so.
Or sophomore year. Senior, where we met Wesley Willis and
saw Paul Barman. Yeah, that trip was a killer. One of the most interesting musical weekends or whatever it was, weeks that I've had. And I remember Chuck D's
so dope
speech. He started off by talking about how hungover he was. And now it's like, oh, what a jerk. But at the time I was like, what a cool guy.
Yeah. No, that's true. I kind of knew who Public Enemy was, but I didn't realize that they were so. Now I'm like, dang, that was cool to hear him talk about how illegal downloading was dope in the late '90s. To hear him do a speech,
totally, to talk about
it's pretty dope.
And wasn't that before he was? Because he was like the official Napster spokesperson for a while, right?
Yeah, he was definitely on their side for sure. probably around that, man, because Napster was around that.
We saw King Missile too on that trip, didn't we?
Oh my God, we sure did. Yeah. A lot of amazing formative music. And you got me the Paul Barman CD, which was like a big moment where like, wow, you can sound like a nerdy white person, but if it's cool and you have flavor, it's going to be, it's dope. And I have you to thank for like turning me on to that, because that was another informative moment.
I'll take that. Like he was really, I remember seeing him on stage and just being like, who is this guy? Like, he's like scrawny white guy with big curly hair wearing like a basketball jersey and like doing like robotic moves. It's great. I totally loved it. We didn't get a chance to meet him that night though, did we?
No, but he went to a panel the next day and I gave him my CD and
oh, nice.
I remember I was looking at colleges and I emailed him about what he thought about Brown, if I should apply there. And like, he was always nice to me, but a nice guy, but no, definitely like an influential guy, but definitely someone who's distanced himself from the nerdcore scene. He doesn't want to be the godfather of it, which is understandable,
Yeah.
That's fair.
I heard an interview with him on, I don't remember what podcast it was, but yeah, he kind of talked about that a little bit and
fair enough.
Yeah, it
keep it moving, Paul.
Not what he's trying to associate with, I guess.
That's what's up, Shawn.
We were both on the radio though, right? And I did my show with Ian for a while, and you were with Chris for most of our time.
Yeah,
right?
I think 3 years. Well, sophomore year I had Thursday by myself, and then junior and senior year, Chris and I did Thursday and then Friday, and Friday morning, which morning show was, I remember you did it with Michelle and you called it S&M in the morning, Shawn and Michelle in the morning. You remember that? so inappropriate.
So yeah, we did S&M in the AM and
right.
And at the time I'm like just this like junior in high school thinking like, oh, this is a funny name. All I knew was that S&M had something to do with sex. That's all it meant, right? And I was like, oh, this is silly. And then in retrospect, like, man, that was a pretty hardcore show name. I don't know.
Times were different then, right? Times were different.
And the fact that they let us have that show name.
But some people probably like, oh, they don't know. They just think it's Shawn and Michelle in the morning.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. And because Metallica had done the Symphony of Metallica albums, S&M Symphony of Metallica. Around that time.
Yeah. And then I switched to doing a show with Marcus the next year. I kept the M name. I don't think we kept the name though, but I got another M person.
Wow.
Yeah. But I remember like, especially the freshman and sophomore year, like discovering, who was it? The Getaway People. They were like my favorite. Do you remember them?
Yeah. What was their song?
They had a song called Chocolate that I loved. She's like chocolate in my pocket.
Oh yeah. Like, something in my step.
Yeah, something like that.
And here's another one, another band, Small World, is Zebrahead. You play the heck out of Zebrahead.
Oh yeah. Definitely discovered them. And they're still touring, right?
Yeah, we did. I did 2 tours with them, like it's Small World scenario. Okay. And I thought it was so cool. I was touring with this band that you loved, that you got me.
Oh man, I loved them. Totally loved them.
You had good taste, Shawn. And let's talk a little bit about the dude who was the faculty dude who ran the theater program and the radio program, who I've never met anyone like him in the world. And Hamish Tyler.
Mr. Hamish Tyler, man, that guy he's still like, he's such was such a big part of the community in the Monterey Bay area and in the theater scene, because he ran the Forest Theater Guild for many years as well. He ran the radio station. And so the station, it was this really interesting thing in our school. I felt like the radio station had a lot of like kind of like a lot of cool hip kids did it. And then like the theater scene had a bunch of like nerdy theater people.
And there was some crossover people like you and Shawn Hart.
But Hamish kind of he united them in this weird, crazy way. And he had this great way of pulling creativity out of people, and being approachable. One of the shows we did, Kiss Me Kate, ended up having a full run at the Forest Theater, separate from the Stevenson run. So I don't remember how. I think we did like, I don't know, 10 or 12 shows at the outdoor theater. And yeah, he was something else. I have emailed with him back and forth a little bit, but he's another one of those people that, I wish I kept in better contact with.
Yeah, I did some. He was working at the that school in Salinas, and I did a few talks for his students. Like,
oh, cool!
Like the last one was a few years ago, and they put it on the website, and now that school's closed. But he was always encouraging, always a little bit scary, and always
what school was it?
It was called McKayett, the Monterey Community Arts Education, something. But he was someone who, like, you did, if it was like someone like who's Simon Cowell or something, like, you wouldn't want to make Hamish Tyler mad, and if you could impress him or make him laugh. But he was serious, and like he loved his job, but also he was also like he had his favorites, and he also was intense. But he was a good teacher, and he made me. Yeah, I never was cast in any plays, but he was always like, I feel like he liked that I did my own thing,
He could be scary though, like and because you never knew if he was actually being scary or not. Like, when we were on the Oklahoma tour, right?
Right.
And
so talk about that real quick.
Oh man. Let's see. So that was the show we did junior year,
right.
was Oklahoma. And I played Will. And I remember, I mean, we toured Great Britain during that summer, and I don't remember how many schools we played, but it was mostly these high schools that had us, basically hosted us. And one of the schools on the later part of the trip, a bunch of people went out drinking and they weren't supposed to, and Hamish showed up at this like weird little club we were at, and man, he was pissed. But I don't know if he was actually pissed. I think he was just, but he scared the shit out of me.
And one of the schools had they had come and performed The Tempest at our school, so it was like an exchange program where we would.
That's right.
And since England, the schools go so late into the summer, it was like their schools were still in session, and we did performances. I was a farmer cast member, chorus member.
Right. Well, and I felt like, because you spent so much time in Great Britain after high school, right?
Yeah, man.
Doing shows, and I remember thinking like, it's almost a similar circuit to what we did. I don't know if it was, but didn't you have some contacts?
That's
overlap.
That's a good question. I played a lot of the same towns, ended up going to a lot of the same towns.
Okay.
I never really kept in touch with anyone, but it was like touring England became like something I've done consistently every year since then. But it was really fun, like to have all these kids, and like where the drinking age is lower there. Of course, some kids went out and partied, and there was a whole blowback because in past summers, kids were able to go drink, but our year was the first where they couldn't. So people were kind of being rebellious, I guess, going to the pub.
Yeah. Yeah, and were you there that night that we all got caught?
I was not out. I was
okay.
But some people got in trouble and some didn't, right? That's what was crazy about it.
Oh yeah, some people like hid in the bathroom and they never got caught.
And no one snitched on people who were who were there, right?
No, people were pretty good about it. Because I think that the faculty also knew it was kind of a like these kids are still of legal drinking age here, and I think they knew it was kind of a ridiculous thing that we had to lock it down, but they did, and so I don't think they wanted to investigate and get people to rat out other people too much.
No, and I remember, and then there was this thing called the Judiciary Committee where so the kids who hadn't graduated had to go in front, and it was like court for the prep school kids. And so did you have to do that?
Totally.
Were you one of the kids who had to get JC'd or no?
I don't recall having to be JC'd, but I was definitely I was in trouble. So why wouldn't I?
Maybe they liked you enough that.
Yeah. I mean, because Yeah, I don't know. Oh, you know what? I maybe I didn't. So I was staying at a host
Uh-huh.
family, and it may have been that like I went home with the host family and just like nobody wrote my name down. I don't remember exactly,
Wow,
but
Sean, that's
it was
crazy.
maybe I was one of the people that didn't get in trouble. I don't remember.
I remember, well, I won't name him, but the next day I will. Joey, the next day on the bus, he was
Yeah.
like drinking
Yeah.
vodka from his water thermos, sharing it. I was like, man, so
Yeah.
unfair. Like the rules, like
What are you doing?
like some people,
Yeah.
and it was just like high school teaches you that like it's all about context. And that really like some people who were like trying to get into Harvard and stuff, I feel like having that on their record didn't help them with their college stuff.
No, not at all. I mean, it was a pretty big deal. I mean, I like people who went through JC, a number of people like who ended up getting kicked out before their senior year, like changed their entire trajectory, which is super unfortunate. But
For even just like drinking or cheating on tests or smoking weed, like it was
Yeah.
because it was this school was a boarding school. They had to really legally they couldn't put up with it. But it was like if a kid were on a scholarship, they would not be kicked out. They would be more likely to be kicked out than a rich kid.
Yeah.
Or like if they remember that guy ran for a candidate and someone posted inappropriate pictures and the person who emailed the pictures got kicked out, but not the dude who had the idea and did the whole thing. I won't name who that was.
the school was, I mean, it was obviously it's a great school, but it's also like it was strict. It was pretty intense.
Sean, another high school memory is the wilderness trip because sophomore year they threw us in the woods for 2 weeks with
Oh,
tarps
man.
and food, and you and I were in a group together that was the most intense. We hiked the most. It was
Yeah.
it was like the most brutal but amazing trip. Let's talk about the wilderness experience.
It was so like we used to go on a lot of hikes, but there was something different about that. And we had, Faye was our leader, right? The
Right.
dean, and yeah, it was I don't know how many people there were on the trip. Eight of us, maybe 8 to 10 in our group,
Yeah.
and it was a bunch of people that had never done any backpacking before, and yeah, they really threw us out there and like made us really went for it, and it was like
We did like 80 miles in 10 days in the rain.
yeah, and it's like no toilet. I remember like no, use a stick, no toilet paper. Like this is the type of backpacking it was. Do you remember that? Yeah.
And hand sanitizer. Now they go to like in the spring to like Gilroy in the foothills for like 3 days.
Oh, really? Oh man, it was.
They don't do Ventana because it's burned up,
Yeah, yeah, and I remember seeing bears, but it was super. Like I remember everything about it.
It was scary and crazy, but really, I feel like doing that with you, it's like, I'll never forget that because we grew up together. It was a big for me, it was like a growing up experience. And I remember at one point, I was the dude who was always trying to get everyone moving so we get to the camp before sunset. Remember once you wanted a rest because your shoe was untied and I went to try to tie your shoe for you and you were like, no, Andrew, I got it. And I realized like having panicky energy to push people to do stuff is like not helpful. That was a lesson. You taught me that too, man. Taught me many lessons.
Yeah, it was. I just remember like the solo expedition thing was just like it almost like I learned how to meditate there. Like I didn't know about I didn't know about meditation, but you were kind of forced into it, and then it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. And yeah, all these letters from all over.
That's tight, Sean.
Yeah, I had some family members as well that I hadn't talked to in a long time that wrote me letters, and yeah, good memory.
Did you do it? Did you go as a leader senior year or no?
No, I couldn't because it conflicted with the plays.
Right.
I remember I was so jealous of folks that did the leader. Did you?
Yeah, and we had the thing where that girl fell down the cliff, and we had to hike out and get a helicopter and helicopter out. Do you remember this?
Oh, and that was in your group?
Yeah, we had to hike. It was
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
We had to hike to the camp. Because they brought emergency cell phones, but some genius hadn't charged the batteries.
Oh God.
So we had to hike down to the camp, find a random guy who was camping in a truck at Kirk Creek Camp, and then he took us to a place where on the payphone I had to call 911 and then wait for the people and then to hike with the paramedics and then get the helicopter to get her out of the ravine. That was
Holy
scary.
crap.
I had to lead the expedition
That's-
to get her out.
That's insane. I remember hearing about it. I don't
Yeah.
remember hearing all of those details. That's insane.
And that was on the first day, man. And because the path was kind of uneven, and I always wish that like.
So wait, she fell down a ravine. Did she and broke her leg, or
she rolled and broke her arm, and but the thing was she hit her head, so we didn't know if it was her spine or you know we couldn't walk her out.
Oh, jeez.
And we all climbed in the ravine and did like all the emergency training stuff, but like that was crazy. And then, and this was funny. One of the kids, you know, makes me kind of emotional, and like it's one of those memories like. You weren't allowed to sneak in food or like candy or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And a kid had snuck in Cliff Bars. And I remember when we were waiting for the paramedics, he gave me one of his contraband Cliff Bars, one of the sophomores. It was like a moment of solidarity.
Yeah, it's so funny. I remember, you weren't allowed to bring in your own stuff. But like, I mean, it's good that you had that Cliff Bar probably. You were in a emergency situation.
I know. No, that was like, I remember that was like a bonding moment. And I remember the two kids who came down with me were really freaking brave and fast because we had to run out 4 miles down the hill, then run up with the paramedics. And it was scary, man. And those kids were like brave, and it was also an adventure, but like to get in a car with a stranger.
We did a trip to Mount Shasta. I didn't get all the way up. Only one of the two groups did, but.
And it was interesting being on the leadership side because I realized like the people who led our year didn't really know. I mean, it's like we were just improvising the whole time. I remember going out there being like, "Oh, there's a plan," but we had no idea. We had the map, and Mr. Olson knew, but like, yeah, it was nuts. But the crazy thing is, one of the kids this woman Ansha Thompson, who graduated a few years before us, she later was the camp director at the summer camp I worked at Lake Tahoe. Because I'd done that as a leader, I think it's what helped me get hired because she knew. So that was a small world.
Yeah. I remember I brought, we weren't supposed to bring your food, you mentioned, right? I brought,
right.
One Jolly Rancher on my, solo expedition. And I remember it like, I put it in my water and it lasted me the whole time. I remember like, it was somehow a saving grace to have a little bit of strawberry flavoring in my water. It was awesome.
Wow.
Like I remember being thankful for that one Jolly Rancher on that trip. It's like my sustenance. Yeah.
Gratitude for something simple.
Yeah.
You know, Shawn, I had this memory of you we're sitting at the river, and I remember you like threw a rock or something, and I had this memory thinking like about how this might sound kind of like a hippie thing, but like the river, like how time is longer than us, all the people who'd been hiking before us who will come after, and how like we are just a blip on this. And it was like this moment of like, wow, this is a precious moment. And I remember seeing you sitting on the side of the river, throwing the rock in the river, and like, yeah, I'll never forget that. I think I have a picture of that.
I took it for granted at the time, but you probably have experienced the same thing where like we were surrounded by so much beauty down there, and yeah, it was so old, right? Like the rivers and the rocks and the mountains that we had access to.
The redwoods.
Yeah, man, it's beautiful. One hike that my mom and I used to do a lot was the one down to Pine Valley from China Camp. Did you ever do that?
It sounds familiar.
So it was a short kind of, it's 5 or 6 miles in and back, but it's down into this valley, and it opens up in this beautiful meadow, and I took Michelle out there many years ago. It was like our first backpacking trip together, and it's like it really is like there's nowhere like that else in the world. Like it's beautiful out there.
I mean, it's what saved Kerouac, right? I mean, when he wrote his last great book, it's like he was done. He was drinking himself to death, and he came down there to write this opus that was like this finale in his career. That it's like kind of a beautiful, sad book. And I still have dreams that like I'm at a lake somewhere and I climb up the mountain and I'm in Ventana and I'm by myself and I'm having to explore. Because I always imagined I would go back there and hike and write, but I really haven't, other than like little day trips, gone as deep into the wilderness ever again. And your teenage years are full of things like that feel like, oh, I'll do this a million times. But no, it's each one is singularly special, right?
You really have to be super intentional about it, I think.
Yeah.
because it's far enough out there where you can't just like go on a whim. And like I said, Michelle and I went out to Pine Valley, but we haven't gone out there since. I mean, obviously we live up in Seattle now, but even when we were living in San Francisco, we were close enough that we could have, but like it takes a lot of planning, and it's not like just going to a day hike in Garland, you know?
It takes planning, and like it takes a partner. That's cool. You and Michelle like both love doing that. That's dope. She's awesome. I've enjoyed the times I've gotten to hang out with her.
She enjoys her time with you too.
Shawn, I have something I wanted to clear the air about that I needed to tell you this, and I wanted to apologize for this.
Okay.
I did something horrible, and I feel horrible about this. I RSVP'd to your wedding. I was going to come, and I was on the list. You invited me like a great friend. You added me and paid for the meal and everything. And last minute, I couldn't make it, and I canceled. And that's a horrible thing to do, and I'm so sorry, dude.
Don't sweat it. No worries at all, man. I thank you, but
Okay.
don't sweat it. You were missed. You were definitely missed, but don't even sweat it. And I'm sorry that we couldn't make it to yours. It was a pretty hectic couple of weeks. We really wanted to go. I remember chatting with Chris about it afterwards, and he filled me in on all the details. But yeah, we were super bummed to miss it.
Oh, okay. So we're even then.
Yeah,
It's all good. But you didn't tell me you were coming, and that was like you RSVP'd that you couldn't. So it's just something I've always thought about. Like I wanted to apologize, and I'm glad we could clear the air on the podcast.
You just had a wedding. You know there's.
I had people who bailed at the end. Yeah.
We had a solid Stevenson contingency at the reception though. It was fun.
That's what's up. I haven't seen your mom since high school graduation. It's like yeah, and like some of those people. I used to see Tyler a lot. I saw Ben one New Year's. He played drums with me. I haven't seen Marcus since like 2006.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. The 2011 reunion, I was there and he was there. That was the last time I saw him.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a few of them at my wedding, but I think that was definitely the last time I saw Marcus. I guess Ben's wedding was after that. So I saw them there. I saw Chris at my wedding. And he came up to Seattle. Yeah.
He was a guest on the podcast. I don't know if you heard that or if I told you.
I listened. It was awesome.
Shawn, what did you end up majoring in college, and like what are you doing these days when you're not being a Renaissance man of the Northwest?
That's very kind. So my major was video game development. I originally went up there for broadcast journalism to Paul, and that was radio stuff, right? I switched over to video game dev after a year and a half or so, and finished up my degree there. And it was kind of as very much a period of time in like more formal education for video game dev, where people were trying to figure out what those programs should look like. And so at the time, it was very much like let's do a little bit of everything. Let's do some design, animation, modeling, rigging, production, etc. And now it's a lot more specialized. So I came out of there with a pretty good base, but I ended up not doing anything in video games right out of school. I ended up at Google instead, working on the Maps project, which is like,
That's awesome.
At the time I was like, well, this is great. And I did Maps for 4 years up here in the Seattle area, and worked on a lot of really cool stuff. The ski resort mapping that you see right now, that was our team. A bunch of specialized things like that. And when I was moving down to the Bay Area, I was looking at within Google, but I also decided to look elsewhere, and I ended up getting a job at a hardware development firm, and I've been doing that ever since. So I was at Google up here in Seattle, and then we went when I moved down to the Bay Area, we were looking at other places, and I ended up at a hardware development firm down there called Lime Lab at the time, and and so I moved into hardware, and I haven't looked back. And when I say hardware, I mean mostly consumer electronics, some medical devices. It's basically doing the engineering work behind the design. So mechanical, electrical, firmware engineering is what the firm does. So I'm a program manager, and I was at Lime Lab for a few years, and then now up here in Seattle, I'm at a place called Synapse, and it's a similar firm, similar group of clients, but just working on like really cool, fun, and interesting stuff. It's, basically getting things ready for manufacturing. So, not just like 3D printing a part, but making it, manufacturable a million times over. Like it's always very variable. So whereas if you're working at, a single company, you're probably, you're working on the same thing or the same group of products for the entire time. And I've worked on cell phone accessories, video game controllers, personal beauty devices, medical products.
So is this like the Internet of Things, or is that different?
It is related to IoT. Generally speaking, most consumer products nowadays that are developed will likely have some IoT component to them.
Right.
So yes, sometimes the last couple products I've worked on have not fallen into that category. But yeah, there's definitely some of that. What can I say about it? Unfortunately, I can't talk about the products themselves because we're pretty hardcore about confidentiality of our clients because we have a very diverse client base. But just like generally speaking, all sorts of fun stuff, right? I mentioned video game controllers. Because of my background, it's a pretty unique crossover for me where I can apply some of the stuff I worked on in college and also the hardware background that I have. So
that's so
cool.
You kind of became an engineer or a product designer.
I am not an engineer. I manage projects that have engineers working on them. So I can get pretty technical, but I have thought about going back to school potentially to do some engineering work. Particularly in the area of soft goods, fabrics, and foams and things like that. I've done a lot of pretty interesting products that involve fabrics, but so far that's not where I'm headed. I'm doing program management right now.
Did you like your years living in Chicago?
Oh man, I loved and hated Chicago at the same time. I absolutely love the culture and the people in Chicago. The weather is brutal. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It's like, I think I came to the realization after year 8 where I was like, I can deal with this weather, but I don't have to. So I think I'm going to leave. And that really was it. I just kind of up and left and moved to Seattle after I graduated and finished all the stuff I was working on. We still go back to Chicago every year. I still have a ton of friends there. We try to go to
every year. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I think Michelle and I have been back at least once a year since we started dating. And yeah, some of my very good friends still live there. We try to go to a couple Cubs games every year. So I'm still a big Cubs fan.
So does Seattle feel like home? Do you want to spend the rest of your life up there?
Yeah. It's funny. Like after I moved down to the Bay Area to be with Michelle, we were there, and it was pretty quick where we kind of realized like, if this is going to work out, if this is going to be a long-term thing, I think Seattle feels a little more like home. I absolutely love San Francisco, but I feel like it's always on, it's fast paced, and you always have to be kind of, if you're outside, you're on. And I don't feel like that in Seattle. I feel a little more mellow.
That's a good way to put it. The difference between San Francisco and New York is that San Francisco is kind of full of itself, and no disrespect, but like It's like you're in San Francisco. You're welcome. P.S.
Right.
Try not to step on the human feces and like
Right.
try not to like get your car broken into again.
Totally.
New York kind of has this subtle like keep it moving, like it's okay, just do you, and it's different energy. And Seattle I love because it doesn't have either of those. It's more just like beautiful, but like a big great city.
Yeah.
that is, but also is proud of itself.
Totally. It is missing. Like, so New York is obviously, there's the East Coast kind of mentality of like, people don't beat around the bush, not just in New York, it's anywhere, right? Anywhere on the East Coast. They're very upfront and direct about things. And that can,
That's true.
and that is the exact opposite of here. Everyone is subtle and weird about, like, nobody's direct about anything. And Seattle takes it to the extreme. People won't, like, have you heard of the Seattle freeze? People
No.
have a really hard time meeting new friends here. And it's totally real. Like, people are passive aggressive and don't like talking to you directly about any issues they have. Where in New York, people are like, no, you're doing it wrong. Stop. Right.
No, that's true. The first time I realized that was my first bass player when I moved. This dude from Jersey, who I had on the podcast, his name's Rob. He would laugh and he'd go, "You're such an asshole, Andrew. You're such an asshole," and that means I love you in Jersey.
Right,
Like
totally.
this, but I remember I said that once to a friend from San Francisco in a loving way, and he looked so hurt and sad. I was like, "No, I meant that I like you." I'm like, "Wow, you just different
Just
language."
called me an
West,
asshole.
yeah, and the West Coast, that means I don't like you. You like just ran over my dog.
Right.
So you're an
Well, and we were, so where we lived in San Francisco, we lived like right outside of the Tenderloin, and so it was like
Ooh.
just all the time, right? And
Right.
and so yeah, I don't know, if I were to move back, I would probably rethink location a little bit. But I do love San Francisco so much, and we have a ton of friends down there. But I think Seattle's home for sure. We got a house up here now, and that's
what's up.
It's beautiful up here, man. It's absolutely gorgeous. Y'all are welcome to come visit anytime.
Thank you, Shawn.
Yeah.
I know Ashley loves the Northwest. We want to come up there
Yeah,
and spend
absolutely.
time.
Well, we got a room for you if you want to come up.
Thanks, Shawn.
Yeah.
Man, it's like every time I've seen you in the past decade plus, past 2 decades almost. Yeah, 2 decades. It's always at a show and it's always quick and it's always, or it's like a breakfast somewhere the next morning. And you've always been such a great friend in that you always rep the MC Lars and like come to the shows and like, I'm always so proud to see you there. And you've always been such a great friend to me. And you've always someone who inspired me and believed in me and showed me love and like kind of put up with me. And like you're one of my favorite people in the world. And the moments I get with you over the years are priceless. And like the fact that you had time to talk to me and get set up and do this, it's really means a lot, Shawn. You're an important person to me. And like, I just love you a lot. And I wanted to say that. So that's what's up.
Thanks, buddy. I love you too, man. It's been really awesome and kind of inspiring watching your whole journey. I mean, when I went off to school in Chicago and like seeing you, I remember taking the bus maybe like for like a really long time to go to a venue way, way west from where I was living, and like this bar I had never been to, and it was like a weird place. And I remember like, where am I?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's my buddy Andrew, and I think that was one of the earlier shows I saw you at. And I think next time I saw you, you were at a different venue in Chicago. But just seeing your evolution over the years has been super amazing and always something I'm proud to tell people about.
Aw.
And yeah, it's definitely awesome keeping tabs on you. And I'm always glad to see you when I go to shows.
Thank you, Shawn. Well, it's like special that we've been in touch. And I think one of my favorite things about touring is having gotten to like connect with friends like you, and more than if I never got to travel, I like, yeah.
I always get to see people at your shows that I never get to see.
Like Graham.
I think, whenever you're in Seattle, I get to see Graham, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think I went to one of your shows in Austin maybe, and I think we saw some people there. I've seen a bunch of random high school folks at your shows, and it's always like, oh, look at this, look at Andrew's up there, It's
wait,
great.
wait, where were you living in Austin, or were you just there for South by? Or visiting?
No, I was not even for South by, although it did. I think we were there the week before. I was there visiting a friend for spring break,
And it just happened to be there.
Yeah, you just happened to be playing a show, and I don't even know if we caught the show. It may have been that I met you afterwards, because I feel like I remember talking to you afterwards and going to a bar and hanging out for a little while. Yeah, because I don't think I saw the show there. I think I saw you afterwards outside.
Have you been in touch? Speaking of Austin, did you ever talk to Brody Wickstead?
The last time I saw him was in a diner in Tucson, Arizona.
Right.
When he was in school there, and I was visiting my family. That's the last time I've really seen him. But I think I keep tabs on him on Facebook. He
came to my show in Austin, and he's selling cars now, I guess.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's what's up, Brody.
Did he and I have a radio show?
I don't know, but you two were very similar with your music taste. You both were like same kind of like loved electronic music, you know?
Yeah, we were homies for sure. That guy, yeah, he and I were real close. But I don't remember if we did a show. I think maybe like halfway through the year swapped over and started doing a show with Brody. Brody, if you're listening, you got to remind me when we did a show together. I want to say it was like maybe the second half of senior year or something like that.
He did a record, and I did a whole I used to have a show on Sirius Radio, and I did a whole episode about him and like playing all his songs. And they canceled my show because it was because it was so his songs were kind of like offensive and not recorded well, and they were thinking about taking me off anyway. But that show, I remember he got all his friends to listen, and then they didn't air it, and then I was like not on the air anymore. I was like, all right, well, I wish I could have given Brody that serious love, because he has some good raps. The guy's a creative dude.
Yeah, I remember he posted something. He's super into longboarding, and he posted something about Boosted Boards, which is a motorized longboard company out of San Francisco, and I remember like looking at it and going like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I started working in hardware, and now I know like a bunch of people that have worked at Boosted, and it's funny because I remember him posting about it. He introduced me to it, and I knew nothing about it.
Is that like skateboarding?
Yeah. So longboard skateboards.
Right.
Yeah,
that's what's up.
Because he used to be really into like,
competitive
downhill, like really aggressive, intense,
like fast.
Yeah, like terrifying videos.
That's what's up.
Awesome, but terrifying.
That guy is a guy who lives life to the fullest. He told me about once he was in Egypt, and he went away from the tour group and was just crawling through this pyramid. And later he told them that he shouldn't have gone through this maze in the pyramid. First of all, there's traps that the Egyptians set for people who were going to rob graves. Secondly, it was full of cobras in this.
What?
He told me that story. Like, he's the king of great stories. And
jeez,
Brody,
come on.
That's a fearless kid. Where can people I don't know, follow you on social media, or
unless anyone wants to jam on the uke with me? I'm not really doing too much out there creatively right now. Unfortunately, it is what it is. I enjoy playing music periodically, but nothing.
Well, if anyone, I'll play. Let's play "Party on the Moon."
Yeah, for sure. I want to hear this.
Shawn, where did Quinn come from as a nickname?
Yeah, Quinn is my middle name. Shawn, I have two middle names: Shawn Jeffrey Quinn Levin, and I spell it differently legally, and for whatever reason, I decided I only wanted one N. So
right,
I don't know why. But my name's spelled Quinn technically.
Here's why I asked this, because I remember Hoyun, our friend, he was a Korean kid who joined our class and was like really special, awesome friend. He would always talk about the Quinn Levin thing, because that was like your nickname.
Yeah, it was my AOL handle.
And the fact that you held on so hard to Quinn Levin, I was like, I need to come up with a pseudonym. Let's think. Lars Horris. And that was like an inspiration for me coming up with my fake name. But I didn't know it was actually your middle name.
Yeah,
so it's actually tight.
Yeah,
okay.
It was
Quinn Levin at AOL.
Yeah.
Quinn Levin. Shawn, say hi to Michelle for us.
Good to talk to you, buddy. This is killer.
This is tight. Thank you for all your time. So here is Party on the Moon.
Welcome. I'd like to give you a little introduction. This over here is Tyler. He's one of our guitars. Over here is DJ of the bass. Back here we have Leah on the drums. Ben, percussion. This is Daniel, yet another guitarist. The heart of the band, this is Andrew. I'm Shawn, and we're Horris.
You're all invited to my party on the moon. That's tight. The chorus, we reference Weird Al, and later I would do a song with Weird Al. Who knew? Life is crazy. Thank you, Shawn. I love you, bro. I hope to see you soon. Thanks for being on the podcast. Next week, it's the 100th episode. Holler! 100 episodes of the MC Lars podcast. Thank you to everyone who's been with me on this journey. And guess who we got? We got a pretty big guy. We got MC Chris, a dude I've worked with a lot, who I haven't toured with for a little bit, but he's done a lot for me, so it was cool to sit down and talk with him. Tune into that. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Wear your masks. This COVID stuff will be over by 2047. Huh? Hopefully before that. But anyway, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Peace.